everyone. Today I'm going to talk about fast prototyping with Vue.js. So first, who am I? My name is Sebastien Chopin. I'm the brother of Alexander Chopin. I'm the co-author of nuxt.js. I've been using Node.js for 7 years, and I work with backbone.js and server-side rendering before. One thing about Barcelona, I lived there for a few years, but my Spanish is terrible, I'm sorry. I would never expect to be here talking about JavaScript, so I'm really happy to be in front of you guys. So first, what is server-side rendering, also called SSR? So it's been around for years, so I think most of you guys already use server-side rendering. For example, if you have a PHP server, if you use Ruby on Rails, Django, Python, or a lot of server framework. So it's been around for years, and this is how it looks like. So you have your brothers, you go to the page, you request your PHP backend, so we'll use PHP as an example here. Then your PHP will call your database, let's call it MySQL. Then you return the data, and boom, you got your HTML back for the visitor. And when you go to a link, you will do the same cycle. What about single page app? So you have your brother, you call your page, and then you have your HTML and JavaScript on your CDN. You send it back to your brother. The browser will display, for example, the loading if you send back like a GIF. And it will parse, so it will download, parse, and execute the JavaScript. When it will be done, maybe you need to do an API call. For example, if you have to display an article, so we make the API call, and then we send back JSON, your Angular, React, or Vue, or jQuery app can then display the content. And that's it. So it took 5 steps, but what is great with single-page application is when a user clicks a link, you just make a request to your API, you send back JSON, and boom, you have your new pages. So the user experience when the app is loaded is really great because it doesn't have to wait again for the JavaScript for the HTML to be loaded. So let's see an example here. So this is the pages. So if I refresh, as you can see, there was a blank page, so let's try to use slow 3G and a hard refresh. For now it's okay. So as you can see, it's loading, and then we have the data. But when we navigate, as you can see, it's really fast because we just make AJAX requests, except for ask. I think we have a 4.4, and then we can go to the comments. So it's really great when it's loaded. So let's go back to our slide. I want to show you how it looks like when we have the universal application. So now we have our brother, and between our API we have an Node.js server, like we have with our PHP server. So we have our request, we call our Node.js server with Vue server render. Inside the Node.js server we will have our JavaScript application, and it will run on the server side like it does on the client side. So the app will call the API sends back the JSON, and then the Node.js server will send back the HTML like with the PHP part. Then, what happened? The client has the data displayed. So he doesn't have to wait, he can already read and scroll. In the same time, the browser will download and execute the JavaScript. And then, there is a client-side iteration. I will show it again. So what happened is, with Vue.js or React, with the virtual DOM, he's able to regenerate the app, the page, with the data, and then he will hydrate the client, the HTML which has been server rendered, and he make it interactive. And then when the user clicks on the link, it's the same as a single page app. So you click on a link, a request to the API, JSON, and we have the same workflow. So as you can see, for a user, there is only one request which is made to the Node.js server. Except if the user decides to do a hard refresh, it's only then calling the API. So this is what's great also about universal rendering. So let's see an example here. Okay, so it's on the right. First, let's choose online. So I will do a hard refresh. So then we have our content, and the JavaScript has been loaded after, which then make it interactive like a single page app. But we got our content straight away while the JavaScript was loading. So it's a really great user experience. I can try to show you the speed difference between, so will be slow 3G here. So can you hold it for a second? Yes. So are you ready? Okay. So that's okay. I was not on the good page. Okay, let's try again. So this is how it looked like. We had the data directly. We were able to scroll here. So for example, let's see how it's loaded. So it's loaded here. I can already scroll, and the loader means that it still has some requests to make for the JavaScript part. Here, if I'm refreshing, well, now it's super fast. Okay, hard refresh. So it's loading, and then I cannot scroll. I have to wait for the API call and the JavaScript to be parsed, executed, the API call, and then I can scroll. So this is the slight difference. We have to be aware that on the single page app, it's served directly from a CDN, which is way faster, but then the execution and the downloading part is slower. So let's get back to our slide. Okay, why universal? SEO and social sharing. So Google, when you will visit your website, you will directly have the HTML. So of course, the crawlers can execute JavaScript and wait, but it's not as good if you send it back directly the HTML. And social sharing, of course, when you share on Twitter, not all the social media are able to parse and execute your JavaScript, so it's perfect for social sharing as well. Faster time to content, that's what we have seen. It means that the user is able to see the content, and the JavaScript is not needed to display the page already. And then you can save server resource, because as we have seen, the server is called only once, and then it's navigating on the client side. So only your API will be called. And that's it for this part. So great user experience, because you got the content directly, you can scroll, and then we can navigate, and directly you improving. It's like progressive enhancement. And because, just to show you a quick example, if I do a hard refresh and I click on the link directly, it will do another hard refresh, because the JavaScript will not handle the click events, but it doesn't mean that the app is broken. So this is also a good part, because even if the user doesn't have JavaScript, your website will work maybe 50%, the drop-down won't work, for example, but at least it will be able to navigate. And security improvement. So you will reduce some XSS attacks, because you can use some content security policy headers. You can also use HTTP-only cookies, and more security, like for most of the server-side servers, like PHP language, sorry. So let's try to, yeah, I like this key. Let's try to create a server render app from scratch with Vue. So yeah, so it's about 20 minutes. He will hold the microphone. Thank you, James.
No worries.
So can everyone see? And for the other, I'm sorry. You will have to watch the video.
The space at the front.
Yeah. Oh, there is some space. There is some chairs here if you want. Well. Okay, so let's start with our first application. For example, I don't have to code this. Thank you.
Okay, let me know.
Okay, so we have our package.json. What we need is the Express. We can also use Node.js, but for simplicity, I will use Express. We need Vue and Vue server render. And that's it. We have a script we call only our server.js. I mean, that's it. We will see what it renders. And then I create my server. I'm requiring my render view app function. And for every route, I call my render view app function. And I will listen to 3000. So if I run parent dev, it works. But let's see how this render view function works. So I need to require view server render and this method called create renderer. I give him a template. We will see just after how it looks like. And we will also need our create app function. Then the most powerful here is the request and rest object. We will create a context to have the URL so we know in which URL we are on the server side for the app. And then we call create app with the context, and we will wait for the renderer to send us back the HTML. And then we send it back, and if there is an error, we just send back the 500 study code. So for the template, this is our application. So Vue server render will directly replace this by the HTML, and we have the title here, and this is our application. So we require Vue, we get our context, and directly this will be run on the server side. So we create our Vue app, we give the URL in the data, and we have this template for the app, which is we tell you which URL you are, and you have a click button which will say hello, and the say hello method will call window.rm. So let's see how it looks like. So let's go here. Wait. Sorry. Okay, let's go to this URL. So the visited URL is slash. We go to the server side. Yes, we have data server render true. It works. But wait, there is like no JavaScript on the client side. So if I click on the button, it's broken, it doesn't work. But at least we have a server-side implementation, I mean a simple one. But it's broken. So how can we get back the JavaScript on the client side? Well, I hope it was really easy. But it's not as simple, but we will see how it looks like right now. So first, let me show you simple schema. So this is how we will add the client-side part for application. So, okay, we know our server, we have the bundle renderer, and we know we render the HTML. I think it's good I hope it's good for everyone for this part. Then we have our source, and inside our source we will have our application, and this, the store, the router, the components, they will be shared on the client and the server, which is really important. But we will have two different entries, one for the client only and one for the server only. Because on the server, we will need to call the router, telling that, okay, this is the same. But what is really specific on the server entry is that we need to wait for the data to be fetched before rendering the page. Let's say you go to an article, or just with the demo just before, you go to the page. When you refresh the page, you want to make sure the data is loaded before sending back the HTML, because otherwise we will have the same problem on the client side. We will need to load the data. On the client entry, we will need to say, okay, the application is already created. We just need to mount it on the client side. And then we have at the middle of Webpack that will transform everything so we can work. Webpack will generate the server bundle that will be directly attached to the bundle renderer. I will show you after the code how it looks like. And the client bundle will be given to the HTML, and this one will hydrate the HTML. That's it. So, yeah, who wants to do some server side now? Okay. So let's see how it looks with Webpack now. So I will close this. Okay, this is our package.json now. We need some dependency now. So I added Vue router, Vue server render, so we can now have some different pages. Because at the first demo was the same app running whatever the root was. We need Vue server render, Vuejs, and Express. What about the dev dependencies now? We need Babel, also file loader, a lot of Webpack stuff. We need Webpack. Okay, so this example I use Webpack 3, I'm sorry. And some dev middleware, hot middleware. This is mostly for the developing part, so you have hot module replacement. So it's super cool to work with this. Vue loader as well, so we can use Vue file, because just before it was not possible. And then we have our server. So what we added here is a dist folder, so we can serve static files. We have the public as well, so it's quite the same. Dist will be mostly for the generated JavaScript, and CSS public will be for images, for example. And then we have the render view app, and we give it the server here. Okay, now you need create bundle renderer, now which is another method. And well, we have our template here, which is the same one. So this doesn't change. Then, okay, let's try to go straight away to our render function, which has the same request and response. We set the header to HTML. Then we can render to string, and we give the URL, which is like the same we had before. And the point is now our renderer is quite special. The catch part is not really important. It's about the 404 and 500 standard code. But our renderer, we need to instantiate it, because when we will build our application or we run it with npm run dev, Webpack will create our bundle file. So I will show you right now, so it will be easier to explain. So I will build directly. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Now we have vendor. Here we have the app, the manifest, which is the Webpack stuff inside, vendor, Vue, Vue router, Vuex. With Webpack 4, the vendor will disappear. Then we have our map file, and we have Vue SSR client manifest that we will give directly. Yes, okay. That we will give directly to the object. So reserve object class. I think I can go straight away to the third. Okay, but sorry. Where do we call the create method? It's super important for me. Ah, sorry, I forgot about this. So this is the server. We got the server here, and if we are in production, we will read our Vue SSR server bundle.json, which is something like this. I will keep this open. Dist, and this is our Vue SSR server bundle. So it looks like this. This is definitely a file that you won't open, and you don't want to open, but at least now you know how it looks like. So we need to give this to Vue. So we have our bundle, so he's able to map which file is for what pages for the Vue router part as well. So it's super complicated. He didn't write this. It's Evan, so I'm really happy that he wrote this. And it's great for optimization, for preload, prefetch, and all these HTTP2 push headers. And then we create our renderer by giving him the bundle, the template, and the client manifest, which is the Vue SSR client manifest.json. This is generated directly by Webpack. You will have also to have a build folder where you have the dev server settings, the Vue loader config, the base, which is for client and server. This is where we will give Webpack. Wait, okay. this is where we give Webpack the client bundle entry. So Webpack will do two bits, one for the client, one for the server. On the client, this one will be loaded. So we use the base and we give the entry here, client entry. And on the server, we give the entry server. And finally, we can look at our application. So we have entry client, which is really simple. We just need to say, okay, we get the create app method from app, which is shared also on the server. We call create app, and then we mount the application. So Vue, we know that it has to iterate the already rendered HTML. And the server, it's also simple here. We get the app, we create our app with the context from the server, so we know the URL, and we return the app. And then the create app, which will be called every time we call the server. This is to create isolated context. It is really important that we create new view for every request, because you don't want to share some data between two requests, like some sessions, because they have some security issue. And then we can work with view files. So we have the same app that we had at the demo before, visited URL, and we can say hello. So let's see how it looks like here. Okay, Webpack start, and then, okay, works. We have the visited URL, we lost it. We will see how we can get it back here, but we have our button, and it works now. So the client side is working now. Let's see how it looks like. So Vue and Vue Server Render did some magic stuff here. And this is really important, and this is super great, because we are able now to have the preload and prefetch. But first, let's look at this. So we have, this has been server rendered. We have the script at the bottom with defer, which means that the browser will not wait for this to be loaded before finishing the loading part when you request. And we are also able, when he's parsing it, to know that he has to preload these files already. So he will be able to directly download while he's parsing these pages. And also, we can work with HTTP2 push headers, so we can give these files as well. So even he's starting to parse the HTML, he's able to directly download the JavaScript you will need. So this is huge improvement for performances. So how can we get back our URL? And we will be close to have a fully working application. So here we have our context, and we have inside the URL. And in this context, we have new view, but we give it app. We will have maybe a way to say app.url equal context.url, but we may want to use view router, because we'll be able to give a component for every pages and have like a real world application. So let's work with view router now. So I won't explain about the render view app and app again. I will focus on the entry client and entry server, which is really important here. So first of all, the server, we have a create app. Same here, we have the context. Inside context, we have the URL of the request. And we return a promise here because we want to be able to fetch some data. So this is what is great with the Vue Server Render, because it is asynchronous. We can say, hey, I have to do some asynchronous stuff, and then I'm done. So he's able to wait until the app is ready. So here we create our app, we give it the context, and here we can do return.push context.url. So we are calling Vue router to say navigate to this URL, then it will match the component we define in the router. So we get them here. What? Okay, so if there is no match component here, I'm sorry about this, because on my computer it works. If we have no component, we send back the 404 static code, and then it will send, Express will send back the an HTML page, for example, or we can see how it can work with a component for the 404 page. And then we have, like Nuxt, we have the async data. So this is how it works also on Nuxt.
we have promise.hold here. So let's say we have, okay, if we have a parent and a child component, we will have to call the parent component async data and child component async data. So we make sure that all the pages and subpages have the data loaded. So we do this kind of magic stuff. We call async data and we give in store and the current root, for example, here. And then we can give back to Vue this magic keyword which is called state, and we give in store.state here. Because right now we cannot really work like async data, it's more like fetch, we'll see why. And this will create window.initialState back to the client side. And then on the client side we will use this to say, okay, this is our application and this is the data you need to render the same page on the client side. So then you can match, iterate, and become interactive. Ooh, that's the easiest part for the entry server. Well, now you can get why I created Nuxt. So you don't have to do this because universal flow is great. I was going to say that word. Initial state. So this is different for the client, entry client. We get back the initial state and we give it to Vuejs. And let's look at our application because this is the best part. We use router view directly. We have our router, and then we have two pages, index and about. We create our router and we give slash to home and slash about to about. That's it. And let's see our index page. We have the same visited URL, and here we can see that we get back the URL with Vue router. We have the same button, and we added the router link to navigate to the slash about page. And slash about page, we have our async data method, which will be called on the server side when we will call the page. And we do a store.commit. And store.commit will increment our counter to 1. Let's see if it works now. I'm super excited because we are close to have a fully working app. Okay. So we have Webpack. So okay, there is something really important about all this Webpack build is the development environment and the experience, which means that because of all this configuration, the development experience with Vue.js is great because every time you will update a file, it will be hot reloaded when possible, so you won't have to refresh your application and you can work. I will show you just after this. Let's put it here. Okay, so we have the page here. It works, and I'm navigating on the client side. But there is something here. I refresh, I have 1, and if I look at the source code, I have my initial state with the counter to 1. So to remind, we have a page about, and we have seen inside our server entry that if we have a match component with async data, we will call it. So our store state will change, and then we send back our state. So we have our counter to 1, so when we refresh, we have it. But now it's, damn it, it's going up now every time we refresh. So what's happening here? So it's planned, it's not like a real bug. I planned this. So what do we have here? We have this file, which is a store. We have this variable, which is the store variable, our store instance. And we have this create store method. But we give back our instance. But if we have 2 requests, this store object on the server side, it won't be loaded every time. You know, on the client side, when you load the JavaScript, it's an environment which is not shared across your other borders and even between 2 tabs. But on the server side, Node.js has some caching. And this file is loaded only once, but only this method will be called every time. So the store will be shared across all the requests. So what we can do to solve this issue is every time this method is called, we have a new instance of our store. And because we use Webpack, I don't have to restart our server, I hope. Okay, so now we fixed this issue. But we could have like a major security issue because of this. So we have to be aware of all these best practices. And this works, but we might have some problems here, because if I go to the About page, the async data is not called because we still have 0 here. So we will need to change the entry client to add some magic, so when is navigating to a page, we will have to get the component, like on the server side, and call async data, so we can have the same behavior on the server and client side. I won't show it here, but it will take maybe 15 minutes, so I can remind how we can do this. But here I want to explain more about some notes on the server side. Every request should have a fresh and isolated app instance, because as you can guess, we have no it will create some cross-request state pollution, like for example sharing some cookies if you put them in the store, sharing some data like you don't want to share, and you want to make sure, like same as inside your browser, the app is isolated and has some fresh instance. So prefetch data on the server, because you want to be able to give back the article if you're on the article page. Okay, I think most of you guys use Vue.js, and you know these hooks before created, mounted. On the server side, there is only 2 hooks which are called, is before create and created. Destroy is not called. So what it means is you should not start timers in these hooks, because I want to show you how it looks like. Okay, now you can have all this.
How many times? Oh, no.
Okay, so here I will create my created hook, and I will say, hey. So what's happened here? If I go to this page here and I refresh, I have hey. But on the client side, if I go to home page, I have it as well. So it makes sense. It's run on the client side and the server side. But what if I decided to create like a timer, like set interval, and say console log hey with the timestamp, and every 400 milliseconds, okay? So now I refresh my page. It works here. I go to about, let's this timer, because let's do it right, okay? And on the destroyed hook, we here interval timer. Is it correct? Well, I think so. I hope so. So I go to about. Okay, stop. This is great. Let's look. Thank you, James. You can plug to him, but they don't want. I think it's lunch. So. Okay, I reloaded, so we have our timer here. But wait. I mean, it should stop because it should have got the destroy hook normally, but it doesn't. And let's say I have, I don't know, like some request. So now I have this. I have a huge memory leak on my server side. So be aware of these hooks. I think it should be like, if you go to the server side documentation, I think it should be like really big. Like be careful about these hooks. And also avoid platform-specific API. What I mean is, don't use window on the server side because it doesn't exist, and don't use module on the client side because it doesn't exist, and etc. I can show you. here. So let's say I just call window and set interval. And what do I have? Well, it's broken now because I killed the server, which makes sense. Okay, let's refresh. And I have a 500 internal error. And what is this? I say window is not defined. Actually, most of the client-side library that doesn't work on server-side or with Nuxt is because you didn't check if window exists. If you only check if window exists before using it, other client-side library will work with server-side. So I hope some people will share the work because we can make server-side rendering really easy and for everyone to use library. Okay, again. Now let's go to the next slide. Next.js. So we use, using Alex talk, we use Vue server renderer with Node.js